Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Yesterday I made a video about how often I change out my water, and I gave you some very generalizations, I feel like, that I'm going to go back over today. I received so many questions, really good questions, and I've also just been thinking about how exactly I have been doing my water culture orchids. Part of what I do with them is almost intuitive. If I see that they're doing well, I don't really change things very much. But when I notice that something is out of balance, that's when I start working on them. And when I start getting the same type of questions from my subscribers, I know that that's something that I need to go over with you all in a little bit more detail. I gave you a general idea yesterday that usually I do top off my water every single week. I used to do that really often, like 2 or 3 times a week, and it was a lot of work. And I just stopped doing that. I felt like, topping that water level off once a week was plenty. So I realized yesterday at the end of my video that some of my phals are inside in a windowsill and some of them are out in my sunroom. And they get different conditions, different humidity, different temperatures. So let's rewind just a little bit, and I'm going to go over some specifics with you. About 3 months ago, I noticed that there was algae growing specifically in certain ones of my phals. And there was a lot of algae growing in my Dendrobiums too. So I was thinking, I know that algae produces oxygen, and I've traveled a lot and I've seen orchids that grow in the wild, and they like to be around bark and moss, and there's algae around them. So I thought, what if I just left the water culture alone and maybe even encouraged some of the beneficial bacteria and the algae along? So I started putting them in a sunny windowsill. If you want your algae to grow, that's the best way for it to grow. What I told you yesterday is you don't want it to get out of hand. But I've been testing this water. This is my Baldwin's kaleidoscope, and I've been testing the water, and it is at a pH of 6.0. It started out at a pH of 6.5. So what happens with this every week? The water culture level that I start out the week with is up to here. And by the end of this week, it's going to be about 50% gone. So I'm not going to do anything with this water except for just refill it with fresh water. One of my questions from yesterday that was such a good question, can I ask why you keep half of the water? What happens if you totally change out the water? And this was my reply. I want to keep some of the water because of the good bacteria and the algae that grows in the water, because it becomes the orchid's home. But if you have a lot of evaporation taking place, you really don't need to do that 50-50 change out that I told you yesterday. You'll be accomplishing that through the evaporation process, and you'll just be topping it off. So I wanted to clarify that because that seemed to really be an aha moment for that subscriber. So I wanted to go back and quantify that with you all. Now this is the water level for my golden number 5. Actually, it's down just a little bit. The level is about right here. And by the end of the week, it's probably going to be about right down to here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check the pH of that water. I'm going to see what it is. I have a feeling it's going to be 6.0. What's so interesting to me is that when I place these orchids in water culture, I'm placing them in 6.5. Now, do I want a pH much lower than 6.0? No. It'll start getting too acidic. So if you check your water culture water and it is acidic on you, you need to go ahead and do a partial change out so that you can get your pH back up to about the 6.0 to 6.5 range. That's where I have found that they're the most happy anyway in my environment. And I'll show you how I know this orchid is happy. These roots are wonderful. You all know that I really am enjoying growing in moss right now, but I am not changing this one out of water culture. This one is doing really, really well. So I'll continue to check that pH level, make sure that I know what that is. And if it starts getting too acidic, I'm going to add some of my reverse osmosis filtered 6.5 water. That's how I've been doing this, and this has been a successful thing for me. Now this is the water culture for one of my Dendrobiums. There's one and there's two, and as you see, there's a lot of algae in this water. Now these are in semi-water culture, so I will be changing out the water culture, so to speak, but I save this back. I inoculate the fresh water with this water on my Dendrobiums, and they're doing just really, really well. As you know, this one has a spike here, and the good news on this one, guess what I found? A spike. So I'm thinking that the algae at this point is just really beneficial. So this is what I just wanted you to see, an example of what the water culture looks like with my Dendrobiums. These get more sun, so they're going to have more algae. At least in my environment, they are. There's a lot of algae where I grow normally. Outside, there's a lot of algae in our area. But I also realize that some people just don't like algae. They just really, really don't like that. And you know, I respect that. If you don't, you know, part of growing orchids is growing them the way that you like to grow them, the way that they grow best for you. So on a whim, an experiment, I just wanted to see if there would be any algae that would grow in this type of a container. And it doesn't grow so much in this type of a solid container. So that might be an idea for you. But this one evaporates back about half of its water every week. And then I just top it off with fresh water. That's kind of how I got the 50-50 mentality going yesterday. But in the wintertime, they're not going to be evaporating that much. That's the other thing. So that's where you're going to keep your pH meter out, and you're going to be checking your pH every week or two. Okay, so you're asking me now, Amy, that one looks really clean. This vase looks very, very clean. I had to change out this huge Dendrobium that I've been showing you all summer long. It finally outgrew its home. So I had to put it in this large glass vase. So what I did this morning is, so it will fill at home, I took the water that was in its original container and I poured it in here. And I'm just waiting to see how long it takes for algae to grow along the bottom of it. I give it about a week because this one gets a lot of sunlight. So it's been almost 3 months since I've cleaned this glass, and you see what it looks like now. You also see the health of the plant. This is a very, very happy Phalaenopsis. So someone asked me, will I ever clean my vases? That's a good question. If I find that the algae is just taking over to the point that I think it's going to harm the orchid, I will. But if I do that, I'm going to make sure that I update you all and show you, what I think is algae that has gone out of control. But for now, I think they're just all really happy. They're doing so very well, and they're growing. So I just wanted to say thank you for all of your questions. I hope that this makes that video a little bit more clear, and I hope I've answered some of your questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to let me know, and you all be highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed. And we'll talk to you all next time.